Richa, thank you so much for coming and meeting us on the Neev Virtual Book Club. We profiled the middle last week, and so we're really excited to speak with you about it. So for those of you who have just joined us, Richa is the writer of this beautiful picture book called The Middle. It's illustrated by Eva Sanchez Gomez, and Richa is also the publisher of the book. She runs a company called Pickle York Books. So we're very happy to have Richa with us to talk to us about her process for making the book and all of the things that went into it. Okay, Richa.
Thank you, Kartika. A pleasure being here. All right.
I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how the story evolved itself, from what you remember of how it went.
Okay, so I wrote the story in somewhere around 2015-16.
Okay.
And today, because of this conversation, I was going through that old file of mine,
Right.
and I'll try and see if I can share that. I didn't send that to you earlier, right? Oh.
Yeah, but that's all right. I mean, you can just tell us.
Or maybe I'll just read it out. Okay.
Sure.
So, and this is the very first draft that was there,
Right.
and it says, and it's remarkably close to the final version.
Okay.
And yet it has. I mean, it was a very basic skeletal sort of thing that was there at that time. And I remember, I mean, it's showing as only 151 words, and the final version ended up being about 588 words. So, a lot of things would have got fleshed and added on to it in the process.
Right.
But I'll just read out. It says, Asma devoured books during the day. At night, the books devoured her. So this is how it started. And it's pretty much what it is in the last final version, but with a few tweakings here and there.
Right.
And I can see those little art notes, illustration notes that I've given scribbled there. That, okay, she's sitting and reading and imagining and all that. So obviously, even the very first time when I started doing it,
right,
the thought that was there in my mind was to create a book about it's the journey. Essentially, what is it? It's the journey of a voracious, insatiable sort of reader into a writer, into a very contemplative sort of writer.
Right.
Okay. So so that was the essence that I wanted to capture in the story. And I mean, I don't know whether it's anything to do with how my mind works, or how I would have. Whether it's my own journey of being a voracious reader to a writer, or but it was there.
Right.
And even in the first draft, I can see things like she's getting scared, and there's an overactive imagination and all that. So these things were there for sure.
Okay.
And at some point, they started becoming more intense and darker and more menacing, and also because of the way Eva and I sort of, we just latched onto this story in at multiple levels, and
nice.
Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah. So since you brought Eva into the conversation, do you think you could tell us a little more about how this collaboration came about? How did you find her?
Okay. So Eva, I am so glad I found her. I remember this was my first time. The first time I was planning to go to Bologna. This was 2015, when I didn't know anyone there at all. Okay. And I was sitting through the whole host of I had a list of all the illustrators that I wanted to meet. So I had gone through all their websites. So there were like hundreds and hundreds of illustrators whose details I scanned.
Right.
And there were these few, about 20, that I desperately wanted to meet in person because they was just so fabulous, their work.
Right.
And I remember writing a very sort of tentative sort of mail to Eva, because she already was, she's always been a great illustrator.
Right.
And I just sort of dropped her a mail saying, okay, I'll be there. Would you want to connect? And that instant warmth that you feel immediately in the way she responded and how quickly it happened. So that was where I first met her.
Okay.
And of course, this story wasn't there at that time at all. So there was another story which I had written, and I wanted, again, an exceptionally talented person to be working on that story. And that story ended up like it was the Dance of the Wild that I finally did with
Ruchi.
Ruchi Masane.
Yeah.
And the brilliant part was that both Ruchi, I mean, that 2015 Bologna is where I met both Ruchi and Eva for the first time.
Oh, lovely.
So, you know, it's like, and with Ruchi, of course, that, I mean, we took on the discussion from there, etc.
Right.
But with Eva, because I'd seen her work, it was so fascinating.
Right.
And through the emails, because after the 2015 meeting, we stayed in touch over the next several years, you know, and meeting at Bologna and all that.
Right.
So she would keep sending me her emails would actually always have those images that she was currently working on.
Oh,
and remember those images that I shared with you earlier?
Yeah, shall I just pull it out?
Yeah, sure. Put it out. So those, so with each of her emails, you know, those images would come.
Right.
And they were just so fabulous. I mean, they are moving. They are, they take you into another world. Yes, those images. You can see how fascinating these illustrations are. And these are all from parts of different books that she's done.
Right.
So these used to be there in her signature. And with each new email that came to me, I mean, I was more and more convinced that there had to be a story which, can you see this? I mean, it's, you can see that whole thing there, the girl and the monster, the animal, whatever.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
It was around the same time that I had started working on this story.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So the story of Asma's journey from being a writer, a reader to the writer.
Okay.
And she was afraid of the dark, etc., etc. So somehow, you know, the Eva's conception of monsters and everything gelled so well with what I had in mind, that I just shared the story with her. I mean, I felt she was the one who had to do it. It's
nice.
And she took to the story so quickly. I mean, she loved it, and it was as if it was just meant to be, you know. And initially when I was thinking of it, of course, scared of the dark was one part of the story. But my initial vision was to have, say, you know, people from characters, very, very important characters from literature, down the ages, to be there on the first, second, third pages when she's just starting to read, you know, as a voracious reader and all that. But when Eva, the first set of iterations that she sent in, and those, when they came to me, I realized that, okay, I mean, there was nothing more magical than those. So off went all the things I had in my head about characters, etc., etc. It had to be those animal monsters that Eva brought in. And there's so much depth that she's added to the book because of the way she's been thinking. I mean, she was thinking about the story. And then, you know, it was like it's always, whenever I'm working with any illustrator, it's always a collaborative sort of thing. So it's a, you know, it's a take sort of thing. So, you know, I mean, there's a lot of to and fro, back and forth that happens in terms of idea exchanging and all that. And with each such discussion, several layers of depth get added to the story. So
I think this is a good time for me to just pull up the sketches that Eva sent me.
Yes, please. Oh, yes. I am sure people would. These were the first iterations that Eva sent in. And you can see, as you can see, so these were all that. So this was her characterization of Asma, which is pretty much what it has remained down the several months and years that we worked on it. And so these were her animal monsters that she had in mind, and they were brilliant. I mean, the first look at these, and I knew that this book was going to be just absolutely wow. But you know, when I was going through these illustrations, I remember thinking to my mind, you know, it's like I've seen all her colored things that she does, and they are, as you shared right now on the screen, they are just so fabulous. But there was something so arresting about these black and whites that I was seeing, just the pencil drawn things. And these were only, I mean, these were the roughs that, you know, these were the sketchboarding that she was doing. But there was something so arresting about these pencil sketches that I just casually wrote to her. I said, okay, why don't we attempt doing this book in just your pencil sketches? That's it. So let's try it in monochrome and let's see where it takes us. And immediately, I mean, within seconds, she responded, oh yeah, let's do this. And maybe I'll add a tinge of one shade of color to add another layer of interpretation to the whole thing.
Right.
And it's really magical the way the book has come out.
I know.
I mean, every single, I don't know if people will be able to see. Can I hold the book here and
Yeah.
okay, you have
Why
the
don't I
file.
show
Yeah, so
the,
maybe
yeah.
yes, of course you show this. Yes.
So I will just make this.
If we can just blow it up a bit and show everyone how detailed and how fine those pencil lines are. I mean, incredible. Every single line
Yeah.
adds to the charm of this.
Yeah. And I
Yes.
love
So
that yellow tint that she's added.
yes, and exactly. So
So
that
well.
yellow tint, and
Yeah.
that yellow ended up representing so many things. You know, it was
Right.
earlier not knowing the it was the confusion that she has in her mind, and
Right.
it's the doubts that she has, and the answers that can't be, the questions that can't be answered. I mean, there were just too many things, layers that we were working on
Right.
together at the same time in this book. And
Right.
the way she was putting those colors at each of those was a very deliberate sort of act on her part, as to where
Right.
the yellow had to be and where the yellow, where it was just to be left as black and white, because the yellow was
Right.
finally a digital color that she put layer on top of the black and
Right.
white thing.
Right. Right.
So
Absolutely good.
so you can see how detailed and how fine every single line of
Yeah.
the fur is.
Yeah.
And the eyes, I mean, if you can just close up, zoom in on the eyes sparkle and they gleam, and they are scared and they are scary all at the same time. So
Gorgeous. Just very, very
gorgeous,
beautiful.
really gorgeous. I mean, this book, I'm so fortunate to have met and worked with Eva on this book,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you want to hold up a picture, the book itself, Richa, for all the viewers to see?
Is it clear?
Yes, the middle.
The
Very
middle.
nice. Yeah. I remember
Yes.
when I looked at it, I remember thinking that it's so beautifully done. Like the story is excellent. It's so lyrical. And the illustrations add another layer of meaning to it. And then the book itself is so well produced. So it's hardbound. The paper quality is really, it looks like it's carefully chosen. So as a publisher, did you end up thinking about those things?
Of course. Okay, so the way it happened was, I'll be very honest, you know, with this book, and I remember discussing this with Eva even while we were creating this book. I said, this book is so abstract in its form and in its in what we're trying to say with it.
Right.
I'm not sure if there's going to be a market for it. I mean,
Right.
most certainly not in India. I mean, that's what I felt at that time.
Okay.
So, and there was a lot of myself I was putting into the book. As it was quite exhausting in that sense for me. I mean, mentally,
Right.
because it really put a lot of, I mean, I could see myself getting consumed by the whole process of doing this book.
Right.
So by the time I came to the end of, like Eva came to the end of her illustration process and everything, and we were designing the book,
Right.
I remember telling myself, okay, this is not going to go out commercially at all. I mean, this book is going to be just my book
Okay.
for me, and I'll maybe just do 50 copies of these books and gift it out to people whom I really love and admire.
Right.
And that's about it, you know. So this is not meant to go out. This book wasn't really meant to go out as such.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm glad I discussed it with some of the few people I really trust within the industry.
Right.
So one of them was, of course, Sangeeta Mehta
Right.
Bhansali of Honey Tree. I mean, I just shared it with. I mean, there's no book that she hasn't seen of mine before it has come out. You know, so
Right.
she just pounced. She said, "There is no way you're not going to do more of these." Okay. And I shared it with there's another very, very close friend of mine who's again like and both these people I've dedicated the book to. I mean, this title is dedicated to both of them, of course.
Okay.
Archana Atri, she runs a fabulous book club here in Noida,
Right.
AA Nerds, and I shared it with her. And of course, I mean, when she saw the PDF, she said, "There is no way you're not going to take it out, because I know for a fact that people will connect with it." There was
Right.
one more person I shared it with, Manjari Chakravarti. She's also a fabulous illustrator. I mean, you know, the story when it first came out, In fact, she was the first person to have seen the story because I shared it with her. I so badly wanted her to do the story. It was like
Right.
that, you know.
Right.
But, you know, through the months, a lot of other factors came into play.
Right.
So when I shared this book with her and I asked her, I mean, do you think there's going to be a commercial sort of aspect? She said, of course, do it. And so these were the three people. And then, of course, Swati, Roy, and
Right.
Venkatesh of Bukuru. I
Sure.
had to share it with them for some other purpose, and they said, Richa, you have to make it out in bulk. So, you know, these were the people, once I got this feedback from them,
Yeah.
is the only time when I finally discussed it. So, by which time all the paper, etc., I had already finalized with the press,
Right.
you know, Thompson.
Right.
So it was the finest quality paper and the most expensive thing that was going on. I mean, I have kept I must show you the amount of printing iterations that went into it just to select the final paper, you know.
Right.
So you can see there are these 20 to 30 sheets. I'm not sure if it's clear.
Right.
20 to
Yeah.
30 sheets. These are all printed sheets, different sheets that I got printed. And these are all different kinds of paper.
Right.
Not one of them is a repetition. Okay, so and we did it in, I mean, I was doing it on plain white and I was doing it on sparkling white and I was doing it on ivory, all kinds of permutations, combinations to see whether, you know, which of these would really work out the best.
Right.
And ivory has always been my favorite.
Yeah.
So then I got books done in both ivory and white, and then finally ivory won because it's just so magnificent. So yeah, it
Very
was,
nice.
you know, even those little details like this. So there's, in a hardcover, there's that head and tail thing that happens. There's a little cloth insertion that is there, and then the binding, right?
Yeah.
This particular thing, it's called the HT band. I don't know whether
Okay.
you can see it, but yeah, it's with the spine.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was such a lot of fuss that I made about this little HT band as well with the printer. But I have a fabulous set of people sitting there at the press,
Okay.
Thomson Press, and you know, they're so indulging in that sense because you know, I am very demanding and they are very indulging. So it really works out finally in the favor of the book, and it's come out so beautifully.
Really,
I mean, they couldn't have been any other version of this book, essentially. There was such a lot of, as I said, fussing about it.
Right, yeah. So, Richa, I'm sure people really they're curious about the book and they want to buy it. So they can buy it from the Pickle Yoke website, right?
They can buy it from the Pickle Yoke website. It's now on Amazon, Flipkart, everywhere. It's available.
All right.
And Eureka bookstores, the online version of that, they sell it.
Okay.
It's on the Nestery as well here. It's a Noida-based online company, you know. So it's there everywhere, and it's there in the retail outlets now. So finally, it's out there commercially.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Richa. I really hope people will go out and buy the middle and tell us what they think about it. And I wish the book the very, very best of luck.
Thank you so much, Karthika. I mean, thank you for featuring this book.
It was our pleasure.
For the book club. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Richa.